schedule carries a weightage of around 160 to 170 marks in your JEE Mains exams. So if we are correct this time, that will go up to 180 marks. The total weightage of JEE is 300.
Yes, sir.
So this will cover 180 marks. So if you can, like from this 180 marks, if you can score 110, 115 in your JEE exam, then your
Yes.
percentile will be around 95%. This is what happened with us few of our students in the first attempt. So if you're getting anything around 100 marks, so it's around 92 to 96.
Okay, sir.
And 100 marks means, do you know the total weightage of JEE? Like the total marks?
300, sir.
300. So out of 300, if you can score 100 and 110, then you can easily score around 93 to 96%. So the strategy is, first we will focus only on these topics. But if any one of you is performing exceptionally well, like on every Friday we have test, daily you have to solve some assignments. But if you are doing exceptionally well, you are able to solve all assignments, you are performing very well in your test, then we will arrange some one-to-one classes in the evening also. And in those one-to-one classes, we'll try to teach more concepts. Like apart from these concepts, we will try to include some more concepts from class 11. So that that strategy of 180 marks will go up to 220 or 230 marks. So we'll have better chances of scoring.
Okay.
Okay, so that totally depends on you. If you're performing very well, then we will add a few more classes in the evening also. So that was about the strategy that we discussed. The next thing is we started with vectors. So in vectors, we have discussed all these things, like we discussed unit vectors, parallelogram law, triangle law, resolution of vectors, dot product. We just have to finish cross product. And today our target will be basics of kinematics and basis of some laws of motion.
Yes.
So are you comfortable with this topic, vectors?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because you'll be using this topic not just for in vector, but even in your electrostat, magnetics, you will need this topic.
Yes, sir.
So yesterday we did dot products. If you want, you can just take notes, or you can take screenshot of these properties of dot product. We'll be solving numericals based on these properties. So yesterday we have finished dot products, but we can't solve all numericals of it. And we also discussed the books that we'll be using. So for the next 20-21 days, you won't have enough time to study theory. So for theory, the class notes are enough.
Yes,
for numericals, you will be solving NEET PYQ and JEE PYQ. That's it. No other question, nothing else.
Okay, sir.
First, you will solve NEET PYQ questions. When you finish them, then you will do JEE PYQ.
Sure, sir.
And trust me, if you can do this for 20-21 days, 95 percentile in JEE is not a very big deal. 98, 99% is a big deal, but 94, 95 is not such a big deal. Okay, so we will start with the dot product thing. So in the dot product, we have already discussed these properties of dot product. Let's move on to the questions directly. Yeah? We didn't attempt any question of dot product. So this was from resolution. This we did, and yeah, this is again a question from the dot. So you have two vectors, a vector A and a vector B. So you have two vectors, a vector A and a vector B. Vector A is this cos omega t I cap plus sin omega t j cap, and vector B is cos omega t I cap plus sin omega t j cap. So you have to calculate the value of time at which they are orthogonal to each other. So Hamza, what does orthogonal means? Adriel, what does orthogonal means?
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular. So these two vectors are orthogonal. That means they are perpendicular. So Hamza, if two vectors are perpendicular, then what is the value of dot product? If you have two vectors and they are perpendicular, what is the value? Yeah, dot product is 0. Good. So you can simply write this as A dot B will be equal to 0. So your A is its cos omega t I cap plus sine omega t j cap dot vector B, which is cos omega t by 2 I cap plus sine omega t by 2 j cap is equal to 0. So how to take that dot product, Priyadarshini? How will you take the dot product of these two terms?
Cos omega t into cos omega t by 2 plus sin omega t into sin omega t by 2.
Perfect. We multiply the coefficient of I cap and then multiply the coefficient of j cap with j cap. So we have cos omega t multiplied by cos omega t by 2 plus sin omega t multiplied by sin omega t by 2, which is equal to 0. Now the next thing is, see, obviously you can't multiply cos omega t and cos omega t by 2. So what we can do is we can try to convert this cos omega t into, or just let me check. I believe there is some error in this question. It should not be cos omega t by 2. It should be cos omega t. Just one second. Okay, so this is cos omega t and this is cos omega t by 2. So what you can do is you can convert this cos omega t into some cos square or something. So you remember this half angle formula, right? So what is cos 2 theta? Can you convert this cos 2 theta into some sine theta by 2? Half angle formula. Cos 2 theta can be written as 1 minus sine square theta by 2. So here, instead of omega, you can use theta. Do these steps and tell me which was the correct option. Convert this cos omega t into sine omega t by 2, or try to convert this cos omega t into cos omega t by 2. Similarly, repeat the same thing here and check which option is correct. So it's 138. You have 2 minutes. Just solve it and tell me the final answer. Well, I think instead of this going to this path, like dividing this from theta by 2 and converting it this term, there is one more possibility. Is this some identity here?
Cos a minus b.
Right. So cos a cos b plus sin a sin b. It's cos a minus b. So you can use cos a minus b also. I believe that would be shorter. Do it and write the final answer. Correct option. Answers. No need to convert this in half angle. That's a lengthy approach. As Priyadarshi says, this is cos omega t minus cos a minus b identity. Okay, I got one answer from Priyadarshini. What about the rest? Okay, Aditya, fine. Uneeb, Hamza, Adril, Krishna. Okay, I'm solving it. So, okay, Hamza, Krishna, and Uneep. So this is cos A cos B plus sin A sin B. So you can write this as cos A minus cos B is equal to 0. Now you can further write this as this is cos omega t by 2, right? You're subtracting omega t and omega t by 2 is equal to 0. So cos can be 0 if your angle is pi by 2. So we can equate it with pi by 2. This will cancel this term. Omega you can write as 2 pi by t into t, which is equal to pi. Pi will cancel this pi, and this t you can write as t by 2. Am I making any mistake? Yeah. T is
Sir,
t
we
by
can leave
2.
omega
Okay,
as it is.
okay. Yeah, answer is not in t, it's in omega. So fine, you can leave it here. So from this step, we can write that t is pi by 1. Just no need to do these calculations. This is the correct. Note it down. Uneep, Hamza, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Note it down. Okay, next we'll do cross product. So if you have two vectors, when you take dot product, then the dot product of two vectors is a scalar quantity. A dot B is a scalar quantity. But if you take cross product of two vectors, like this is vector A, this is vector B, and these two are inclined at an angle theta. So this A cross B is its magnitude of vector A, its magnitude of vector B, its sine theta multiplied by n cap. This is A cross B, cross product AB sine theta into n cap. Where n cap here shows the direction of A cross. It shows direction of A cross B. So the direction of A cross B is perpendicular to both A as well as B, which is perpendicular to both vector A and vector B. So A cross B is perpendicular to vector A as well as vector B. So if A and B is in the plane of my laptop, then A cross B will be perpendicular to the plane of my laptop. Perpendicular to the plane of my laptop means it's either outwards or it's either inwards. So A and B are in the plane of the laptop, but A cross B will be perpendicular to the plane of laptop. So it's either outwards or it's either inwards. Now, whether it's outwards or inwards, it's given by right-hand thumb. The exact direction is given by right-hand thumb. So if you draw these two vectors on your notebook, then you will be having two options. If you draw it on your notebook, you'll be having two options. The two option is your A cross B could be perpendicular to the notebook or outwards, or it could be inwards. So whether it's outwards or it's inwards is given by right-hand thumb. The right-hand thumb rule says, take your right hand, apply right hand with me. Take your right hand, place it in the direction of vector A and curl it towards B. Right hand, place it in the direction of vector A and curl it towards B. This thumb will give the direction of A cross B. So this is how we apply right hand. Now, if we come to the properties of cross product, the first property is result is not a scalar. The result of cross product is a vector quantity. First. Second, if you have two parallel vectors, if you take two vectors which are parallel, so if you have parallel vectors, then A cross B will be 0. Because for parallel vectors, you will write this as this is AB sine 0. Sine 0 is 0. So your A cross B will comes out to be 0. So parallel vectors A cross B. Third thing, if you take two vectors and take, which means if you take cross product of I cap and I cap, or if you take cross product of J cap and J cap, or if you take cross product of K cap and K cap, they all comes out to be 0. So I dot I, J dot J, K dot K, everything comes out to be 0. That's for the parallel. Next, if you have a perpendicular vector, okay, there is one more interesting property of parallel vectors. Like if you have two parallel vectors, vector A and vector B can be written as, so if you have two parallel vectors, then you can write them as, like you can write vector A as lambda times vector B, where lambda is some real number. So if I give you two vectors, like I give you a vector A, which is I cap plus J cap plus K cap. And I gave you two vectors, like I gave you a vector, which is I cap by 2 plus J cap by 2 plus K cap by 2. And I give you another vector, which is I cap by 2 plus J cap by 2 minus K by 2. And if I ask you which of the vectors from B and C is parallel to it. So can you check a vector which is parallel to A from these two given vectors? Check this property. So this is vector B. If you can write this vector B in this way, like you can take half as common, that's I cap plus J cap plus K cap. You take half common here. And what is I cap plus J cap plus K cap? I cap plus J cap plus K cap is vector A. So if you can write that your vector B is half times vector A, you're writing this in this form. So that means A is parallel to B. So this is a shortcut method to check whether the given vectors are parallel or not. There's one more long-term method, like you can use the entire cross product and you will see if it is 0 or not. Instead of doing the cross product, what you can do easily is just check whether A and B are multiple of each other or not. If they are multiple of each other, that means they are parallel. So if I apply the same logic on A and C, Aditya, is vector C parallel to vector A by the same logic?
No, sir.
No, because this negative sign, even if you take common, half common, this C and A will not be the multiple. So C is not parallel to A. So that's a shortcut method to check whether two given vectors are parallel. The third thing that you have to check is perpendicular vectors. So if you have two vectors which are perpendicular, then their cross product will be maximum. A cross B is AB sine theta. Krishna, when was the dot product maximum?
When theta was 0.
0. Here, this is maximum when your theta is 90 degrees. So this is the maximum value of cross product. You can simply write this as, this is AB and. So this is the case when your cross product is maximum. The next thing is, if you have unit vectors like I cap, J cap, K cap, if I take dot product of I and J, it comes out to be 0 because I and J are perpendicular and the dot product of perpendicular vector is 0. But here I'm not taking the dot product, I'm taking the cross product. So I cross J will not be 0. So to memorize what is I cross J, you can do one simple thing. Make the cycle. If you are moving from IJK in clockwise sense, then that is positive. So if moving in clockwise sense, it's positive. And if you're going in anti-clockwise sense, if you're going in anti-clockwise direction, then that will be negative. So you can say that I cross J is K cap. you can write that your J cross K is I cap. Similarly, you can write that your K cross I is J cap. You're going in the clockwise. But if you go anti-clockwise, like instead of I cross J, if you want to write J cross I, then that will be minus of K cap. The direction will get reversed. If you want to do K cross J, that's minus of I cap. So if you want to do I cross K, it will be minus of J. So this is how it works. So if you're going clockwise, it's positive, anti-clockwise, it will be there. After perpendicular vectors, we can write that this is anti-commutative. By anti-commutative, I means if I take A cross B and B cross A, that they won't be equal. There will be a negative sign here. But if you can remember, dot product was commutative, like A dot B and B dot A will have same meaning. After this, the next property is distributive property. Which means if you have a vector A and you write this as in this way. A cross B plus. Now you can write this as this is A cross B plus A cross C. So A cross B plus C, you can apply distributive property. So this first take cross product of A with B and then take cross product of A with C. This is distributive property. After distributive property, next is cross product in Cartesian form. Hamza, what does Cartesian form means? Hamza, what does Cartesian form means? Aditya, what does Cartesian form means?
सर मतलब डिटर्मिनेंट के फॉर्म में एक्सप्रेस करना.
No, Cartesian form means the vector is given in terms of I cap, J cap, and K cap. So if you have a vector A, which is A1 I cap plus A2 J cap plus A3 K cap. So if vector is given in terms of A, B, and C, then we call this as Cartesian form. B1 I cap plus B2 J cap plus B3 K cap. Now, if you want to take cross product now, A cross B. So take cross product in Cartesian form. Yes, you are right. You have to solve it in form of determinant. So the first row will be I cap, J cap, and K cap. First element will be A1, next will be A2, next will be A3. Then next element will be B1, next will be B2, and next will be B3. We have to open this determinant. Hamza, just open this determinant from the first row.
Sorry, sir.
Just open this determinant using the first row. You know determinant, huh?
Yes, sir.
So it
A2
will be
into
I
B-
cap.
A2 into B3 minus A3 into B2.
A2 into B3 minus it's A3 into B2. Next, minus of J cap, huh?
Minus J cap. A1 into B3 minus A3 into B1.
B3 minus A3 plus K cap.
A1 into B2 minus A2 into B1.
A1 minus A2. So this is A cross. So this is how we open cross product in Cartesian. And what is the direction of this A cross B? Krishna? This is vector A, this is vector B. If I ask you about the direction of A cross B, what will be the direction of A cross B? Adril?
N cap.
Not N cap. Adril, what will the direction of A cross B?
I cap minus J cap plus K cap.
No. First thing, the direction will be perpendicular to both A and B. Okay. The direction will be perpendicular to both the vectors A and B. And if you want to get the exact direction will be, you will take vector A and B and you will divide it by the magnitude of A cross B. This is the direction. But simply, you know one thing. If you have a vector A and a vector B and you're taking cross product of A and B, then the n cap here is perpendicular to both. A cross B is perpendicular to both A and B. So you can write this as this n cap is a unit vector perpendicular to both vector A and vector B. So this unit vector will be perpendicular to both A and B. So this is sometimes they also ask, they give you a vector A, they give you a vector B, and they will ask, okay, which vector is perpendicular to both A and B? So the vector which is perpendicular to both A and B is A cross B by mod of A. And the last property of cross product. That is the geometrical meaning of cross product. Geometrical meaning of cross product. So the geometrical meaning of cross product means if I give you two vectors, I give you a vector A and I give you a vector B. These two are inclined at an angle theta and I ask you to complete the parallelogram. So the diagonal of the parallelogram are, we know if you want to calculate length of the diagonal, then length of the diagonal will be A plus B. This is length of diagonal. This is length of diagonal. But instead of length of diagonal, if you want the area of this parallelogram, area of parallelogram, then the area of the parallelogram is A cross B. And since area is a scalar quantity, then just take its mod. So this is the geometrical meaning of cross product. So if I give you two vectors and I ask you to calculate the magnitude of A cross B, then physically the magnitude of A cross B will mean the area of the parallelogram. If I ask you to calculate the length of the diagonal, that means I'm saying to add A and B. I'm asking you to add A and B. Next thing is, instead of this area of parallelogram, if he asks you to calculate the area of triangle, see, the area of triangle will just be the half of the area of parallelogram. So if you wish to calculate area of triangle, will be equal to area of parallelogram, which is A cross B divided by 2. Do it. So that's all about cross product. Let's solve some numericals over it. Note it down. Tell me once you have written, I'll scroll it. I'm sharing the link of this file also. So I've shared the link of this OneNote file. So if you want to revise anything after the class, you can refer these notes also. But please don't refer books for theory after the class, because in crash course, you don't have that much of time. So daily you have around 4.5 hours of theory lectures. 6.5 hours you have to work out numericals. You won't be left with any time for theory. Aditya, Hamza, Uni, any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
And tomorrow you will have a test, our first mock test. So the first mock test will be based exactly on the pattern of JEE. And since it's the first test, the syllabus will be from the first two classes only. Wednesday, yesterday's class and today's class. So the syllabus will be vectors, motion in 1D, some portion of motion in 1D, and FBD. Adel, I will share the time. By the end of the day, we'll share the timings of the test also.
Okay, sir.
Okay, did you solve any numerical yesterday from the PYQ? Does anyone of you solve numericals from PYQ? Vectors? No.
So I have solved few, but I couldn't find many, sir.
Hmm.
About 5 to 6 questions I could find from previous years,
So you have
just based on vectors.
okay. You got the same book, na? They have shared book with you.
No, sir. In that book, there were none based on vectors. I had a book in that I solved them.
Let me show you the book. Okay, I'm showing the book now. Just note it down. There are plenty of questions, like 15, 16 questions of vectors. 16 questions of vectors. See, if you can solve in the last 4-5 years of JEE PYQ and NEET PYQ, then you won't have many surprises in exam. I'm showing you, there are 16, 17 questions, vectors. But if you're taking a book which is for JEE Advanced, then you won't find many questions, because in JEE Advanced, they don't ask question on vectors. But in JEE Mains, they do ask question. Okay, so from tomorrow onwards, I will take questions. Huh? So okay, I hope everyone have written up to it. So let's do one question. So this is a good question. This is including everything like dot product, cross product, everything. So this is a question. So A dot B is mod of A cross. And you're supposed to calculate A minus B. What's the formula for calculating resultant of A minus B? Krishna? Formula for calculating the resultant of A minus B?
A vector minus, root of A vector minus A square minus B square plus, sorry, A square plus B square minus 2AB cos.
Yeah, that was A square plus B square minus 2AB. So A square and B square is A and B is given. Theta is not given. To calculate theta, they gave you this condition. A dot B is A cross B. Hamza, how to open A dot B? Hamza, open this A dot B.
AB cos theta.
AB cos theta, very good. And when you open this A cross B, this will be AB sin theta. So this AB and AB will get cancelled out. So cos theta is equal to sin theta. So cos theta equal to sin theta when it is equal, when theta is 45. So from cos theta equal to sin theta, from here you can conclude that theta would be 45 degree because cos 45 and sin 45 both is 1 by root. So now you have theta. So you can calculate the value of A minus B. The magnitude of vector A minus vector B is A square plus B square minus of 2AB cos theta root O. So this is A square plus B square minus 2AB. Instead of theta, you can write 45 degree. That's cos 45. Cos 45 is 1 by root. So 1 by root 2 and this gets cancelled out. It's root 2. So it's root over A square plus B square minus is root 2. Haji, is it clear? So the correct option will be D. Is it clear, everyone? Aditya, Uneeb,
Yes,
Adriel?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just note it down. So this finish the vector. I'm giving you some homework question and we'll start with kinematics and we'll do some basics of free body diagram also. Just note it down, give you some questions of vectors that you have to solve. I believe you must have written up to now. So yeah. So this is that book. Someone from the operations team must have shared this book with you. So in the chapter 3, motion and plane, you have first question. This we have already solved yesterday, so no need to do it. Second, we also solved yesterday. Third would be your homework. Fourth, you have already solved, so no need to repeat the fourth question again. See, try to solve each type of question. Instead of solving 3-4 questions of each type, just try to solve one question from each type. You have limited time, and that limited time you have to cover all scenarios from which they can ask numericals. So your homework will be question 3. Just keep writing it somewhere. Question number 5. Then you will do question number 6. Question number 8. 9, you can do question number 9. This we have already finished. This is same. There's nothing in this question. Question number 13 and question number 14. So by today evening, try to solve all these questions. I'm giving you homework from JEE, but it would be better before starting numericals of JEE, just go through these questions of NEET. NEET is easy. When you solve questions on NEET, it will boost your confidence. First solve all questions of NEET, won't take more than 1 hour, and then come to JEE. So I'm not giving homework from NEET PYQ. Your homework is JEE PYQ, but before doing JEE PYQ, solve some question from NEET PYQ. Okay, so let's start with kinematics. So the next topic is kinematics. See, kinematics is a very, very big topic. Like, it's not possible to cover the topics like kinematics and laws of motion in 3 or 4 lectures, a very, very lengthy topics. So I'm picking only those topics from kinematics, which you will be using in electrostat or magnetics. You can get some questions also on those topics, but I'm not doing the complete kinematics. I'm just picking some selected topics. You will need those selected topics in other chapters also. Like without some topics of kinematics and laws of motion, you can't attempt questions of electrostat. You can't attempt question of magnetics. Similarly, you need these topics in modern physics also. So the first thing is the concept of distance and displacement. Distance is the actual path. Displacement is the shortest path between 2 points. Distance is scalar quantity. Displacement is a vector. So when you add vectors, you have to use vector laws. So if I say this is the initial point, this is the final point, C, and this is the final point, T. So if I ask you to calculate distance, then distance will be simply AB plus BC plus CD. But if I ask you to calculate displacement, displacement is the shortest path. This will be the shortest path between A and D. This will be the displacement. So displacement will be AD. So in general, distance is always greater than or equal to displacement. After distance and displacement, the next term is speed and velocity. So both speed and velocity can be divided into 2 categories. Speed and velocity can be average, and speed and velocity can be instantaneous. So let's first see what is average speed. Average speed is simply the ratio of the total distance and the total time taken. This ratio of total distance and total time taken is the average speed. If instead of average speed, you want to calculate average velocity, then average velocity is just the ratio of total displacement divided by the total time. Now, after this average speed and average velocity, we can calculate instantaneous speed and velocity. Instantaneous speed and velocity. So for instantaneous speed and velocity, what we do, the same relation for both speed and velocity, it's derivative. Instead of dividing, you are differentiating position with respect to time. This is position. So if you are differentiating your position with respect to time, then the velocity is known as instantaneous velocity. Now, after all, this is instantaneous speed, that's the same thing. After this, if you want to calculate acceleration, acceleration is just the rate of change of velocity. The rate of change of velocity. You can divide acceleration into two types of acceleration. It could be uniform, or your acceleration could be non-uniform. So you can have uniform acceleration or you can have non-uniform acceleration. So in uniform acceleration, what happens is uniform means acceleration is not changing with time. It's not changing with time. It's constant, huh? So you can write that your acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. Sorry, not rate of change. It's change in velocity by time t. Delta V over delta t. Now remember one thing. Velocity is not a scalar. Velocity is a vector. So this is basically a vector equation. Acceleration is change in velocity by time. Change in velocity is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time interval. So the subtraction here is a vector subtraction. So to do the subtraction, you have to use the triangle law, the parallelogram law of subtraction, the parallelogram of subtraction that we did. SI unit is meter per second square. In non-uniform motion means acceleration change with time. So if acceleration change with time, then we can, so acceleration is not constant, acceleration is variable. So if something is changing, we can calculate that quantity into two ways. We can either calculate the average acceleration or we can calculate the instantaneous. For average acceleration, this is the simple relation is change in velocity divided by time interval. Or this is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Instantaneous acceleration, you can write, this is just the rate of change of velocity. Instantaneous acceleration is just dv over dt. There's one more thing here. So if I give you an example, like if I say that at t equal to 0, the velocity is 2 meter per second. At t equal to 2 seconds, your velocity is say 4 meter per second. At t equal to 3 seconds, your velocity is, let's say, 8 meter per second. And I ask you to calculate average acceleration. So for average acceleration, this intermediate quantity is of no use. You need initial and you need final, that's it. So you can say that your average acceleration is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Now, since the motion is one-dimensional, the angle is 0 degrees. So instead of doing complete vector subtraction, you can directly subtract. So it will be 8 minus 2 divided by time, which is 3 minus 0. So it will be 6 by 3, which is equal to 2 meter per second. This A is dv by dt. This is instantaneous. Like if I give you the equation of velocity, I say that velocity is 3t square plus 2t plus 1. And I ask you to calculate acceleration at t equal to 1 second. So at t equal to 1 second, your acceleration will be dv over dt. Hamza, what is the derivative of velocity here? Hamza, what is
For
derivative of?
acceleration.
Yeah, what will be the derivative? Just differentiate this equation. It's 3t square plus 2t plus 1. Yeah, please differentiate this equation.
2 into 3t
6t, then
plus 2 plus 2.
that's it. Huh?
That's it.
Now, you need acceleration at t equal to 1 second. So what you can do is in this equation, just put t equal to 1. Just put t equal to 1 second here. So when you put t equal to 1 second here, you get it 6 into 1 plus 2. So that is 8 meter per second. So instantaneous means time instant will be given. You will say, okay, calculate acceleration at t equal to 2 seconds. Instant is given. He would say calculate acceleration at 5 p.m. Instant is given. But for average, instant will not be given, interval will be given. Like he would say, okay, calculate acceleration in 2 to 6 seconds. So 2 to 6 seconds is not an instant, it's an interval. Is it clear? The difference between the interval and instant?
Yes, sir.
Because if this difference is clear, then only you can decide whether you are supposed to calculate average or instantaneous. Like if I ask you to calculate, okay, calculate velocity in between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. So Priyadarshini, what velocity you will calculate, average or instantaneous? In between 3 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Average velocity.
Average velocity. But if I ask you to calculate, okay, calculate velocity exactly at 5 p.m. That means you're supposed to calculate the instantaneous one. For average, you can use division. For instantaneous, you have to do differentiation, whether it's velocity or it's acceleration. So if it asks you to calculate instantaneous, then you have to differentiate it. Or if you want, you can write this as in this way also. Like this is d square x over dt square. You can write this in this way also. So either you can differentiate the velocity with time, or what you can do is take position, take its second derivative. So differentiate position twice with respect to time, and you can get instantaneous acceleration. Now you have types of motions. You have uniform motion. So if you have uniform motion means velocity is constant. Only if velocity is constant, then what about acceleration?
So 0.
0. So types of motion. First is uniform motion. Uniform motion means your velocity is constant. If your velocity is constant, that means acceleration is 0. We'll have acceleration only if velocity will change. Second is uniformly accelerated motion. Uniformly accelerated motion. So what happens in uniformly accelerated motion? Uniformly accelerated motion means acceleration is constant. Or you can say that acceleration is uniform. So if acceleration is constant or uniform, then you can use few equations, like you can use this equation v is u plus at. You can use this equation as is ud plus half at square. You can use this equation v square minus u square is 2s. Or you can use this equation dn is u plus a by 2, 2n minus. So if your motion is uniformly accelerated, means if acceleration is constant, then you can use these equations. Just tell me the meaning of each and every term. What is v here? V here is the final velocity at any time t. What is u here? U is initial velocity at t equal to 0. What is a acceleration? A is acceleration. S is displacement in 0 to t seconds. And again, the dn means it's displacement in nth second. Displacement in nth second. Nth second means it's n minus 1 to n seconds. The rest of the terms are same. So this you will use when your motion is uniformly accelerated. If motion is non-uniformly accelerated, then you can't use any of these equations. Okay, just note it down up to here. Then we will study non-uniformly axed portion. Note it down, please. And please write it faster.
So if you can keep these quantities in mind, you'll be able to solve maximum number of questions from the candidates. There are still some questions which will be based on relative velocity. There will be some questions on free fall. I'm not sure whether we can cover that portion or not. But apart from those questions, you will be able to solve all other questions of candidates. Right now, my motive is not to cover kinematics. My motive is to cover that much portion of kinematics that will be using in other chapters of class. Similarly, I will do with the laws of motion also. So I'll choose only those topics which you will use in laws of motion. And whenever any one of you will say, okay, you want to cover more topics than the one which are mentioned in the strategy or the schedule sheet, I can arrange class in the evening. If you're confident that you can do these things, you need more, you want to cover more topics, then I can arrange class in the evening. But you should have one thing very, very clear in mind. Exam like JEE cannot be cracked by just memorizing the formula. You have to dig deep into it. You need to practice a lot of memory. You can give a simple criteria, like if you can complete the whole homework and you are still left with some time, just tell me, we'll arrange classes for more. If you have any doubt, we can discuss it right now. Aditya, Hamza, Prashini, any doubt in the discussion?
So everyone have written up to here? Hamza, Munib, Aditya.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So if you have non-uniformly accelerated motion, Krishna, what does non-uniformly accelerated motion means? Acceleration will be constant or variable?
It will be variable.
So if I give you an acceleration of this form, whether this is uniformly accelerated or non-uniformly accelerated. Yes, Krishna. If acceleration is 3t cube, it's uniformly accelerated motion or non-uniformly accelerated?
It is uniform.
No, see, acceleration depends upon time, right? So acceleration is non-uniform. It's a non-uniformly accelerated motion. So if your motion is non-uniformly accelerated, and if I ask you to calculate velocity or I ask you to calculate displacement, what you will do? You can't use these equations. If I ask you to calculate velocity, let's say I'm asking you to calculate velocity in, let's say, at t equal to 3 seconds. Acceleration is given, you're supposed to calculate velocity, but you cannot use these equations. Adriel, why can't we use this equation if acceleration is 3t cube? Adriel, why can't we use these 4 equations if acceleration is 3t cube? Adriel, not audible. Adriel, can you please repeat? I'm
Sir, it's
asking.
non-uniform.
Yeah, because it's non-uniformly accelerated. These equations can only be used if your acceleration is constant. So acceleration is given, velocity you need at t equal to 3 seconds. It's also given that at t equal to 0 second, body at rest. We can't use this equation. So how will you proceed, Unip? How will you solve this numerical? Acceleration is given, time is given, initial velocity is given. You're supposed to calculate final velocity, but you can't use this equation because acceleration is not constant.
Sir, integration.
Yeah. So if acceleration is non-uniform, if you have a non-uniformly accelerated motion, then integrals will help you. What is acceleration? Acceleration is dv over dt. And this will be equal to 3t. So what you will do, you will write this as dv is 3t cube dt. So integrate it on both the sides. What the limit of time? It's 0 to 3. What is the velocity at t equal to 0, Krishna?
0.
0. It's given that body is at rest. At t equal to 3, velocity you are supposed to calculate. The integral of dv is v. You can integrate it from 0 to v. 3 I can take outside. What is integral of t cube, Aditya?
So t raised to the power 4 upon 4.
4 by 4. And the limit is 0 to 3 now. So this v minus 0 is 3 by 4. It's 3 to the power 4 minus 0. So this is how you will proceed if the acceleration is not constant, it's not uniform. Similarly, if velocity is given, you want to calculate displacement, then you have to use this thing like v is dx over dt. You can write this as v dt is equal to dx. You can write this as on integrating on both the sides, you will get displacement. So if you have something which is non-uniform, you have time-dependent velocity, you have time-dependent acceleration, or you have position-dependent velocity or position-dependent acceleration. So to proceed, you will use calculus. So if you want to calculate acceleration through velocity, you will differentiate. But if you want to calculate velocity through acceleration, you will integrate. If you want to calculate velocity through displacement, then you will differentiate. We wrote this in instantaneous velocity also, right? But if velocity is given and you are supposed to calculate displacement, then integrate velocity with respect to time. So note down this discussion. This discussion will be very, very helpful. Like if you look at last 2-3 years questions of JEE, then you will find 2-3 questions on this concept only. Let's move on to numericals. Huh? Now let's see how well you can apply these concepts. Just read this question. Oh, sorry. Just read this question and at least try to decide which relation, which concept you will use here. So it's 2:39. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Just note down the given quantities. Out of the list of formula that we wrote in the last section, just try to decide which relation, which numerical using it. Okay, 2 minutes over. So let's start with Aditya. Aditya, velocity
Yes.
is given. So it's a constant velocity or a variable velocity?
Variable velocity, sir.
So it's variable with respect to time or with respect to position?
So with respect to position.
With respect to position. You're supposed to calculate acceleration. Now, this is a tricky question. Acceleration is dv over dt, right?
Yes, sir.
But here it's not t, it's a function of x. So can you just tell me how will you proceed? Think.
Sir, we'll differentiate it with respect to x.
See, what we can do is you all have mathematics, huh? So you can use the concept of partial derivatives here. What you can do is you can differentiate this term with respect to x and then differentiate x with respect to t. So you can simply write this as this is d over dt of beta x to the power minus 2n. Differentiate this with respect to x, so it will be minus 2n x to the power minus 2n minus 1. We differentiate it with respect to x, and then you have to differentiate x with respect to t also. Because it's not a function of x, it's a function, sorry, it's not a function of t, it's a function of x. You're differentiating with respect to t, and then you will differentiate with this x with respect to t also. So that's minus of 2n x minus 2n minus 1. And see, what is dx over dt? Dx over dt is velocity. Velocity is this. So instead of dx over dt, just substitute beta x to the power minus 2. So if I multiply it, this is minus of 2n into beta x to the power minus 2n minus 1 minus 2n. So that's minus 4n minus 1. There's one more beta, na? Yeah. So when we differentiate it, there's one beta here also. So there is one beta here also. So this is beta square. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Note it down. This was from NEET AI PMT, so the easier question. The same type of question will come into JEE Mains. They will add various concepts into it. Just note it down. We'll do one question, this type of question from JEE also. So the motive is that questions that you will get from these type of questions, the list of formula is in the previous section. If you remember all those relations, you'll be able to solve this question. I'll give you homework of 7-8 questions of these type. No need to write the question, huh? Just write the calculations. You just note down the question number and the solution. That's it. We have already shared books with you, so it's already mentioned. It's neat. Okay, let's do one more. This is easy. This is easy. This is easy. This is neat. This is JEE 2000. Do this question. And this is an integer type thing. Huh? Do it. And I need answer, complete answer. Try to do it in 2-3 minutes. Answers. See, this question and the last question from the NEET PYQ that we did are not very different questions. It's just it's just a more complicated derivative, I believe. No, Aditya. Aditya, just check your calculations. Yes, Priyadarshini, it's correct. Good. Krishna, Adril, Uni, Hamza. See, the logic in this numerical and the previous numerical exactly same. There's no difference in logic. It's just a matter of calculation. Good, Adil. It's correct. So what is acceleration? Acceleration is dv over dx. So it's d over dx of 5000 plus 24x to the power half. So when you differentiate it, it comes out to be half 5000 plus 24x to the power half minus 1. So that's minus half. Multiplied by, you will differentiate this term. It comes out to be 24, which is chain formula. And then you will write it dx by dt. So what is dx by dt? Dx by dt is v, which is this term. So this is 1 by 2. This is minus half. So it will come into denominator. And denominator, this will be root over 5000 plus 24x into 24. Dx by dt. What is dx by dt? Dx by dt is v, which is this. This dx by dt here, it's velocity. Velocity is given. So root over 5000 plus 24x. So this term here will get cancelled with this term here. It's 224, which is 2. Is it clear? Krishna, Uni,
Yes, sir.
Hamza. You will get many questions of these type, which is just the application of calculus. So sometimes it seems this question is not checking your physics, checking your mathematics, whether you know your differentiation, basic calculus or not. Just note it down and do one more question. In fact, you will do one more question. And then we'll start with some basics of laws of motion. So if you know this topic, you can solve questions of kinematics, and also you will need this in class 12 syllabus also. Do it. Question 2. First of all, in 1 minute, just note down what are the given quantities. Then the next 1 minute, try to decide which concept you'll be using here. Then start your calculation. Oneep, Hamza, Krishna, I want to see your answers this time. Answers. You already know the concept that we'll use here. Hamza, how will you calculate displacement if velocity is given?
Sir, integration.
Just integrate it. You just have to integrate it from 1 second to 2 seconds. That's it. Okay, very good. Aditya, Priya, Krishna, Vamse. What about the rest? Uneep, Hamza, Adril. Yes, you all three are correct. Very good, Uneep. Hamza, Adril. See, you can write that your velocity is dx over dt, which is equal to alpha t. Very good, Adril. Beta d square. So you can simply write this as dx is alpha t plus beta t square into dt. So it's integrate. The distance between 1 second and 2 seconds. So it's in time is from 1 to 2. This is x naught to some x. So when you integrate it, this is x minus x naught. This x minus x naught is your distance. When you integrate it, this is alpha. This is t square by 2. Limit is from 1 to 2. Then you have beta. It's t cubed by 3. You have 1 to 2. So you have alpha by 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. you have beta by 3, 8 minus 1 is 7. So 3 alpha by 2 plus 7 beta by 3. Okay. So from kinematics, if you get questions on calculus, non-uniformly accelerated motion, then you can easily attempt these questions. So I'm not teaching you free fall because we don't have that much of time. I'm not teaching you relative velocity. You usually in JEE they ask questions on free fall and relative velocity also. Okay, so that was about kinematics. This is what I want to teach you about kinematics. After kinematics, the next is laws of motion. So from laws of motion also we'll be doing some selected topics. So the first will be FBD. So before starting with FBD, let's discuss some common forces in mechanics. Some common forces in mechanics. The first force is weight. What is weight exactly? Weight is the gravitational pull of Earth. So if you have a body of mass m, gravitational weight means the force with which Earth pulls a body, and the weight of the body is mg. So weight is applied by Earth on the body, and what is the direction of weight? Direction of weight is towards center of Earth. Towards center of Earth. This is the direction of weight. It's towards the center of Earth. After weight, the next is tension. Tension is basically the force. So first of all, where tension acts in string. So if you have a string, you have tension. When we say string, that means it's a wire, it could be a thread, it could be a rope. This is tension. And what does tension do? Tension pulls. So what? Now the third thing, what is the direction of tension? Direction of tension is along the string, and away from body. Away from body. So let's try to decide direction of tension in some cases. Let's say you have two masses m1 and m2. So this string will pull this mass m with some force, and that force is known as tension. The direction of the tension is away from the mass. This is the direction of tension T. Similarly, on m2, this is the direction of tension T, away from the mass, simply. So if this is the string and this hangs from this mass m1, then the direction of tension on the m1 will be in the upwards direction. It always acts away from the body. This is the trick to decide the direction of the tension. It always acts away from. Next thing is, if string is massless, if you have a string which is massless, then tension in each part is same. If your string is massless, then each part of the string, your tension will be same. So if I say this is a massless string, so T1 will be equal to T2. Third, if your string is inextensible, like if it can't stretch, is inextensible, then acceleration of all masses connected by a string is same. So if you have a string which cannot stretch, then acceleration of all the masses which are connected by a string would be same. So if you have a mass m1, you have a mass m2, and you are pulling these two masses through a string, then acceleration of both the masses will be same if your string is inextensible. Like if your string does not stretch, its length does not change, then acceleration of both the masses will be same. So just note it down. Okay, so in tomorrow, so I will stop here. Tomorrow's test, I will give vectors and I will give kinematics. That's it. Questions from vectors and kinematics. Nothing. So I'll include questions from PYQ and we'll give some new questions also, just to test if you solve these PYQ questions, then are you able to handle some modifications also. So the questions will include some questions from PYQ and some will be the modified questions.